I used to think running your own business is probably the most difficult thing one can do. But then you add the element of having a family, having a wife, people that rely on you at home. Balancing the two or marrying the two is probably the most challenging thing I have ever done, easily.
Hello, welcome to Behind the Founder. I'm Ben, the host for today, and today we have Ayad from Orange Bag. Ayad, great to have you on. Would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Ayad Mirjan, and I'm the owner of Orange Bag Laundry. We've been in business since 2019. I started in the laundry industry in 2017, and Orange Bag sort of came to be in 2019. We've transitioned and kind of grew over the years and pivoted several times. Of course, that period coincided with COVID, and you can imagine what that did to businesses across the world, not just here in California. And so we started off as a residential laundry service, and now we are essentially a I'd say 90 commercial laundry service with a residential arm. So we work with hotels, spas, gyms, doing towel linen service, rental, and customer owned goods, and with a residential arm there that we didn't want to drop completely.
The remnant of your initial business.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's who we are. We are located in Los Angeles, but we have accounts across the US working with partners that we've honed and worked with for several years, and now we service accounts in several cities across the United States.
Awesome. So you said you got into the industry in 2017 and you started the business. It came to you in 2019. What do you mean by it came to you? What was the origin story of behind that?
Yeah, so it was slow. It was when I think of it, it was almost like a slow progression into pickup and delivery. It almost makes sense. So I don't come from the laundry industry. Historically, I worked in corporate. I did that for many years. Got my MBA, and I thought I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. In 2015, I got the itch to get out of corporate and go do my own thing. And actually, I pursued fitness and health, and that was the industry I wanted to be in. And then I quickly realized I actually got a job as a fitness trainer. So I left corporate, getting paid, very well,
Yeah.
sitting behind a desk, and I had a team, I had staff, and yeah, and we had sort of quarterly goals and annual goals, and I moved from there to working at a boxing gym here in LA, getting paid after tax maybe $14 an hour,
Yeah.
and I'd literally finish class and go have breakfast, and I'd spend everything I made on that breakfast.
Not the initial idea of going out on your own and being an entrepreneur, huh?
Exactly. Well, I thought I wanted to feel what it's like to be in it as a trainer, to see if I wanted to, so I can see it if I were to own a gym at some point,
Yeah.
what it takes to manage a group of trainers. And the gym that I worked for, one of the founders was an Olympian medalist. I mean, he was a boxer. He was the face of the gym, and very well known individual. The gym was fantastic, but he was as involved in the gym and the day-to-day operations 5 years in as he was on day one. And I thought I wanted something that allows me some level of freedom to step away and have a sort of team do the work as opposed to myself. And I looked at many different, businesses and models and things like that. And I landed on laundry, not for, passion for
Yeah.
detergent or passion for softener. It's just, that was the impetus.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, I basically bought a laundromat and wanted to grow that laundromat. I could either now buy another laundromat, which takes a lot of capital to do, or grow my business in a way where I can bring the laundromat to people's homes or to the business that requires laundry. And the way to do that is to basically invest in pickup and delivery.
That's
So
awesome.
now we are basically a logistics company and a laundry processing company, all wrapped in one.
Makes sense.
So that's basically, that was the
yeah,
progression of how
there's
Orangeback came to be.
that big step out of corporate, kind of getting your feet, figuring out what you wanted to do, buy a laundromat, realize that capital intensive growth. So you pivot to kind of just, more of a a model that you could grow without necessarily throwing all the capital in up front. So that's awesome.
Correct. Yes. And so now we run, of course, not out of a laundromat. It's a private facility. It's almost like a factory.
Yeah.
We've invested heavily in automation as well. So, that's the only way to succeed in this business is to focus on quality and also, to keep payroll down and costs down, you have to make sure that automation is a big part of your business. And so
That's right.
that has allowed us that continued growth, and hopefully it continues.
So that's awesome. And so you started with residential, realized during COVID that you needed to make a pivot. That's what led to more corporate business to business contracts that you have now. What do you spend? So I assume, for a large portion of the beginning of the business, you were more involved. I'm sure you're very much involved now. What's changed in terms of your focus from the different stages from residential to now? Like what takes up most of your time now?
How much time do you have?
As much time as you have to talk.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So in everything that I did up until this point, I
Mhm.
always like to do the job myself
First.
and then delegate it. So do the job first and then delegate it. That way I know what I'm delegating. If I delegate something I haven't done personally, I don't feel like I would know how to manage the person to do it. And also it's also a mental thing. It's a level of control that I like to have that I wouldn't otherwise. If I don't know the job, I feel like what they're doing is rocket science, and I'm always afraid that I might lose this employee and I
Mhm.
wouldn't know what to do next and things like that. So while it's not maybe ideal for speedy growth, it is something that allows me a certain level of control and a certain level of mental health as well to be able to manage that growth through.
Yeah, I hear you.
So yeah, so for example, I drove. I did the pickup and delivery for a while. Then I
Mhm.
hired my first driver, then my second driver, then my third driver, and so on. And then I move on to the next thing. So the next thing was customer service. I would do customer service myself, and then now we have a customer service team. I do billing myself. Now we have a billing team. I do sales myself, and I still do certain parts that I get involved with, but I'm in the process of transitioning sales across as well. Yeah, so that's been really the approach. Even, staff management, that was my day-to-day thing. But I continue to, luckily find the right people. We have an incredible team. And I say this because they've been with us for quite some time, many of them from the days we even started until now. And so they know the job better than I do. And I lean on them, on their expertise to be able to navigate certain situations.
Awesome. Yeah. How big's your team, if you don't mind me asking?
We are now at 13 people going on 14.
And it's in all employees that work in person for you.
No, so we have a virtual team as well. So billing, sales, customer service, relationship management, that is virtual.
Okay.
The drivers,
Obviously, yeah.
processors, of course, and on-site managers, those are all in person.
Awesome. Awesome. What's the hardest role that you've had to hire for?
The hardest role would probably be two roles, really. Facilities manager, so a general manager, someone you can rely on, you can trust, and who can maintain a company culture that is both productive and comfortable.
Yeah. A fun environment, or like a nice environment to go in and work at.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I had what I thought was a rock star employee, assistant manager, who was fantastic. They did all the right things in my eyes. As soon as that person left, my staff were relieved. And I thought, what do you mean? Like we had this employee and we lost. We just
Yeah.
really lost them. It's really unfortunate. Yeah, and they were fast at processing orders, and I thought they were on top of the staff and making sure that the staff were productive, but that doesn't tell you the whole story. There's a human element that not every person who is a top performer in terms of maybe speed or quality of product is a person that is effective on a team. And so I realized that I was close to losing maybe three or four people of my staff because of that employee, and I hadn't realized that that was the case.
Yeah.
So really, a general manager that I can rely on. We have Elena. She's fantastic. She's been with us from pretty much day one. And then, funny enough, the driver position. The driver position is not an easy position to fill because those individuals are on their own. They're on the road, and you're tracking their performance through metrics. Excuse me, but they're pretty much self starters. They're self initiating. You're only as fast as how quickly they do their pickups and deliveries, and you hope that they don't dilly dally, and someone who can be reliable. I have this interview question that I ask that has given me a lot of insight as to who I want to hire and who I want to avoid. And the question goes something like this: everyone's entitled to. Now I'm gonna, let you in on the secret, and I hope this doesn't get.
The juice is
Yeah, I hope this podcast doesn't get too big. So everyone's entitled to sick days and personal days. How many days do you think it would be reasonable for you to call in and say, I won't be able to come in tomorrow due to X? How many days per month do you think it would be reasonable for you to call in and say, I won't be able to come in tomorrow? And the driver position is such an important position.
yeah, it's the bottleneck of everything.
Yeah, if you don't deliver, then you pretty much failed.
Yes.
And the amount of people who respond to that question with once or twice per month is staggering. And my follow-up question is per month. They're like, yes. I'm like, okay, so we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
We can't have that. It could happen maybe twice, 3 times per year, but not once or twice per month.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's we might have to steal that question. I mean, my business is hiring, and I think we sometimes it's very funny, like you said, you get kind of the whole grab bag of people that say they're super on top of it and never call in, and they might be the people that call in the most. But yeah, it's a constant concern, especially when you have positions that aren't traditionally like high paid or a lot of experience behind it. So your pool is not, defined by the experience that they've had before that. So you're kind of, you're the one that are finding those things out as the first employer, or, someone that's hiring someone, you're not checking references. So I totally understand that. Well, that's great. So you have a great team underneath you. I know you spoke, in your original answer about your business about heavily automating things. I'm sure you were automating things before the big AI kind of take over in the last few years. Can you talk to me a little bit about kind of what you automated in the beginning and now kind of with AI, how that's changed? Are you using AI? You know, is it part of your business?
So automation is in our business is more maybe when it comes to processing, it's more along the lines of robotics
Okay.
than it would be along the lines of AI. Now, of course, robotics use AI.
Well,
I realize that there are robots now that essentially fold laundry or produce widgets in our industry. It's not perfect. The technology is not fully there yet, but we played along with that. So we had a company send us a robot, and that robot pretty much worked 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, basically feeding towels through our folding machine. The folding machine is our main sort of automation tool at this point. So, for example, previously we would be able to produce maybe 150, maybe 200 towels per hour. With this folding machine, we can produce 500 to 700 towels per hour.
oh my gosh.
So that sped our throughput drastically. Now there's a person, of course, standing in front of that machine, feeding the machine with towels. And the machine can only work as fast as that individual feeding the machine with towels. So that's when we thought we can maybe invest in more robotics to feed the machine, and then we can feed the robot with more widgets. So that's something we're still working on, talking to another company at this point to see if they have a product that can work for us.
Awesome.
But in terms of AI, really it's mostly software than it is actual hardware.
Yeah.
So, typical office stuff that you see in terms of AI, simple stuff. Nothing too crazy from our side in terms of investment in AI. I realized that we could possibly do more. One thing that we're working on right now is developing processes and procedures, essentially putting them on Slack so that any question that comes through Slack is answered with AI based on
Yeah.
previous data that we would have fed it or that it would learn from our exchanges. Right now it's all done manually, but that's a project that I'd like to take on because pretty much the entire team is on Slack, virtual and in person. And so, as you can imagine, a lot of channels, a lot of questions, a lot of, back and forth. Some of that could be eliminated.
Definitely, definitely. I think at least in our business, the AI, it definitely helps, like you said. I mean, and I think you hit the hammer on the head. Like it's, unless your business is software and you're selling an AI, like the AI right now is really in from my perspective, have been most useful in kind of streamlining the back office, right? Not even the product itself, but just like how we run as a business. And it's really just greasing the wheels, kind of maybe adding context here and doing exactly what you said, kind of informing the team on what's happening. So that's awesome. So, you started as residential, now you're in mostly B2B. When you think about growth as a business, are you right now like trying to grow? What is that an active kind of, I know every business wants to grow, right? But in terms of kind of how much you put in growth, are you a good size? Do you want to be twice as big? What is your, mindset when it comes to growth right now and what drives that?
Yeah, we're going after it. That's for sure. We're investing heavily in sales and marketing,
Okay.
and we're looking to grow nationwide. And so that's the approach. I get excited thinking about it. That's the direction we want to go. It's not, we invested heavily in LA
Yep.
and Southern California, and now we want to, branch out and continue that growth pretty much across the nation in other cities. So that's something we're working on actively.
Does that look like
How big?
does that look like buying like a facility somewhere and kind of, doing the whole thing again? I would say I would think that the business kind of revolves around one facility and then a team of drivers and obviously the people that make those work.
Yeah, so I'd say it's more along the lines of buying accounts. So, for example, we did a strategic roll up earlier this year where we bought the accounts of another company here in LA,
Okay.
and we want to continue to do that here and in other cities.
Awesome.
So that's something we're investing in and continue to try to find more opportunities to do so. That's in addition, of course, to the sales and marketing arms that we're investing in to do just that. So in the way I see it, at least from my experience, it's almost like a black hole. Once a business hits the 1 to 3 million sort of revenue stage, where you see the growth, you can no longer do things yourself because you're too big,
Yep.
but you can't really hire staff that are necessarily experts in their own fields because you can't afford them. So you end up hiring generalists and you train them to become experts in those fields. And that takes some work to find the right people to fit in those roles. And so that's our struggle right now is finding experts that can pretty much do the job better than myself in the different, areas of our work. Once we can cross that maybe black hole and go to the next stage, it's
Mhm.
something that I certainly would look forward to because at that point we can afford that talent.
Yeah.
We can afford,
Or
we have enough
yeah.
left behind, enough cash to be able to do just that. So that's where we are right now. Where we want to be is maybe what we're shooting for is a 3x or a 4x in the next 2 to 3 years.
Awesome. Are you looking to sell the business in that time in 3 to 4 years?
No,
You
no,
want to
this is something that is not only something that I'm emotionally attached to, but yeah, I see the growth. I see the growth, and I see that yeah, it can continue to
which
do
may
what
just
it does.
bring back add back another 5 years. 5 years, you see it growing. That's awesome. So, would you say you're most constrained right now about finding good talent that that's not kind of putting you back economically too much to kind of do the things that you can't do because you can't be everyone in the business, like you said?
Yeah, certainly, that's definitely a challenge. So finding the right people in sales and marketing and all of that. So we have people now on our team who are excellent, and I can see us working with other individuals or fill those roles with somebody else. But down the line, I would love to be able to hire, for example, a data analyst who can give us specific details, and here's based on that we can build our strategies and our approach. Maybe a CFO, maybe a CEO at some point, but all that is it's pie in the sky at this point, and it's not something I can afford or be able to pursue. So it's okay. So we'll keep running, we'll keep chugging along until we can make that happen, which will be in hopefully 2 to 3 years from now.
What is the work-life balance like running a business as an entrepreneur, and how has it changed over the course of growing your business?
I used to think running your own business is probably the most difficult thing one can do. It is difficult. It's not easy. But then you add the element of having a family, having a wife, people that rely on you at home. It just adds another dynamic to it. Balancing the two or marrying the two is probably the most challenging thing I have ever done. Being there for my little ones, and you can see the little art that my 4-year-old did. But being there for my 4-year-old, my 2-year-old at home, and while being bombarded by with messages from my staff or clients about orders or whatnot, and trying to be present in both spheres, easily the
Impossible.
most difficult thing I've ever done. Easily. And so that plays on your mind a lot. It's challenging for sure, frustrating at times, but I've become better at it because I've realized that running my business through fear is probably the wrong mentality to start with. So, what's the fear? The fear is that, I'm not there at work or being able to respond quickly enough to fix a problem or address a client concern. Okay,
I hear
so
you.
what? So
Yeah.
what? I mean, it is what it is. You lose that client, it happens. You lose out on addressing an issue quickly enough, it can happen. It probably your lack of ability to respond within the next 5 minutes is probably not the thing that broke that relationship to begin with.
Yeah. That's right.
So being present in the moment while I'm with my kids is probably something that I should probably invest more in. But
Mhm.
I've already made some big headway, luckily, in that direction. And yeah, and I hope to continue to do so.
I think in a world where you're accessible within 5 seconds on a phone, it's hard to disconnect. I had the same
So
thing for
difficult.
I had a client on the East Coast, and we didn't have they wanted to grow really fast, and we brought, on, I think, 20 contractors on their team over the course of a month, and it was the biggest client by far, and also happened really quickly, and they wanted someone to check in every morning, and they started at 8 a.m. So for probably 3 months, and it's not, I mean, complaining about waking up early, but it's more so it's just complaining about knowing that there's gonna be a problem and having to wake up at 5 a.m. to deal with that problem because someone's not, gonna do their job. And I think very quickly I came to the realization that you had just mentioned that, some things aren't even your fault, and you're just kind of, as the owner, you take everything under kind of your own, guilt. I think there's some like owner's guilt in being like, even if it's not your responsibility, your company's responsibility to do this, and they want someone to yell at, you're going to be that someone and you're just going to take it. Right. So I totally hear you. I mean, I got to the point where, I'll turn my phone off and I never used do not disturb before, but then the past like year, I've learned to use do not disturb. And from, when my day ends at 7 p.m. to when I'm on at 8 a.m. the next, it's do not disturb, and I'll just look when I want to and whatnot. But that has been a huge change, I think. I mean, and you mentioned it just being kind of a relationship and the quality of time that you're spending with your kids. It's also just a mental health thing as a business owner, right? Just to be able to turn off and not feel like that's goes into hiring a good team that you can trust to deal with things. I think, but
Definitely. And then working with the right clients, I think you're spot on what you're saying there. But the right clients who are working with you because of who you are as a company, who you are maybe as a person, because you're the face of the business as well, they would understand.
yeah,
If it's the right client, they would understand. Of course, they have a business to run, and you want to be accessible to them, and you are. But once you have that personal relationship, you're working with the right people. By that I mean the right clients that fit your business model. Yeah, they would understand. They have families themselves, and they know how it works. And so once you have that rapport, it's okay. It's okay. Give yourself some time, and or give myself some time,
yeah.
and relax. It's gonna be fine. I'll address it once I am out of the zone that I am currently in.
Yeah. No, it's the saying when you're your own boss, you never have a day off, right? So you have to give yourself a day off or some time off at least to function at full
Yeah,
capacity.
yeah. It's that guilt as well. Guilt is my slave driver, and
Yeah.
so that's
I should
yeah.
always
You
be
want to you want to be there. You want to work. If I'm not going to get another account, who's going to do it for me? So any time spent doing something else, not getting another account is time wasted.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Do you on the note of having the right customers, in our own business, I think we saw as we raised prices, we were really afraid that we would lose customers, but we actually attracted this probably similar amount or more customers. And when price isn't as much as an option, or when price isn't as much as a driving force of the conversation, they want lower, 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 you have a different class of customers. And I assume that's similar to when you moved from residential to commercial, where you weren't having as many headaches because, $100 to a residential clean is feels like that's not something that someone complains about when they have a big contract with you and you're doing a lot of work. Is that something that kind of changed when you moved and pivoted to or to B2B?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. So customers have become residential customers, say consumers, have become more price sensitive over the years.
Yeah.
And so in the early days of the pandemic or shortly there's a lot of capital And so people spent money left and right. And so you
Mm.
saw an influx of uh, of residential orders and just massive growth that in our industry was about roughly on average 14% month over month. That's
Okay.
in 2021, 2022, and trailed off maybe towards the end of 2023. Now in on the commercial side, yeah, you have, of course, businesses reaching out to you saying, "Hey, I have this price. Can you beat it?" And that's never going to be the customer that we work with.
Mm-hmm.
I simply cannot. We're a boutique service. We're a custom laundry service. We provide value for money. We do not provide the most cost effective,
Yeah.
not cost effective, I would say the cheapest
Hmm.
laundry service.
Something's got to give.
That's not who we are. And so anytime I've had to compete with another provider on price, not only do I avoid that competition, but I will almost intentionally lose because it's not where we want to be.
Mhm.
We want to work with clients who appreciate value and want to provide the best quality service to their clients. And that's been our MO.
That's great. That's great. I definitely have felt that in our own business as well. So, well, with that being said, it was great talking to you. Thank you, Yad, and I hope to meet you again sometime in the soon, in the future somewhere. But I'll see you
I
around.
hope so. I
Yeah,
hope so. Yeah. Yeah, certainly. Thank you
right.
for your time.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.